volunteers. First, my co-host, Dorothy Reich, and Kathleen Hernandez and Marcy Winograd and David Troy for helping to make this event a success tonight. I just want to remind everyone, if you don't know already, the restrooms are over here to the right. If you need the lift to bring you up or down the stairs, please get assistance because it's.
Are you guys getting a video now?
People have gotten stuck in there before.
They were getting video.
I'm a little on edge tonight about the lift. And please remember to set your cell phones to vibrate. So there are people in trying times who rise up and change the course of history by revealing critical information. During the Vietnam War and Nixon administration, it was Daniel Ellsberg who released the Pentagon Papers. And of course, during the Iraq War, it was Chelsea Manning who rose to that occasion. But Chelsea Manning's fate was a lot different than Daniel Ellsberg. And as information leaked out about the subsequent torture and incarceration, which seemed obvious that it was an attempt to dissuade future whistleblowers, what in fact it did was the effect of it was to inform future whistleblowers like Edward Snowden to seek asylum when releasing information and just not face torture and prosecution in this country. And so I think that we're at a crossroads here because I don't think any of us probably expected when it happened. And I know that when everything was unfolding, I thought that the fate of Chelsea Manning would be very similar to Daniel Ellsberg, so I was a little shocked. So as many of you are aware, this summer we witnessed what will surely be remembered as a historic trial with unprecedented implications for whistleblowers, information, transparency, and beyond. Private Chelsea Manning was sentenced to 35 years for sharing information and exposing war crimes and corruption with the public. So tonight we have two speakers, and the first one I'd like to bring up is Emma Cape. She is the lead organizer and Courage to Resist campaign to support Army whistleblower Chelsea Manning. Since February of 2011, she helped people in communities around the world organize hundreds of actions and events in support of Private Manning. And she was also present during the trial as an observer and citizen journalist. Emma Cape.
So welcome, and thank you all very much for coming out on this cold winter night. I'm sure Mr. Coombs from the East Coast doesn't think it's that cold, but since I've lived in California for a few years, that's my perspective. So she mentioned, I'm an organizer with the Private Manning Support Network. And Private Manning Support Network was formed back in spring of 2010. So shortly after, Private Manning was arrested, and from the very beginning, it's been a grassroots movement. At the time, it was groups of veterans and freedom of information advocates, government transparency advocates, and anti-war groups. They read in the news about a young soldier who was arrested and who was accused of releasing the collateral murder video, which for anybody who doesn't know, was a video that was made famous when it was released by WikiLeaks in 2010. And it showed helicopter pilots, US helicopter pilots, gunning down Reuters journalists, as well as civilians, both those who were armed and those who were unarmed, and coming to the aid of others. And at the time, Reuters had filed a Freedom of Information Act request for that video, and was being ignored by the US government, by the military. So it was a huge deal when news of that broke. Subsequently, Bradley Manning, who is now Chelsea Manning, was arrested, and this group was formed. And from the beginning, we had basically 3 pillars to our work. One was public education, making sure that people saw through the propaganda that the government was putting out, the government's perspective of this being a traitor versus somebody who is trying to help their country. We also did political support, so we were organizing calls and petitions, letter writing campaigns, protests, all to try to show people who had influence over this case that there were people out there who believed this was a whistleblower, believed this was somebody who deserved public support. And we also worked to raise money for legal fees. So over the 3 years prior to the trial, thanks to small donors, primarily all around the world, like yourselves, we were able to cover Private Manning's legal fees and ensure that she was receiving the best legal representation she could from the person of her choice. So that was a huge success. And I would say that now that Chelsea is in prison and we're in the post-trial phase, I would add a 4th pillar to the work that we are doing and plan to continue to support her, which is prisoner support, which is making sure that she has everything she needs to be healthy and grow as a person while she's in prison, while we continue to do this other work to fight to get her out sooner. So thanks to the support of people all around the world, we have had successes over the years. I know that what happened after the trial, well, David Coombs is going to be talking a lot more about what was bad about that and about what is good and what can still be done to reverse the outcome of the trial. But I would just like to remind you that thanks in large part to the support of people around the world and public protest, Private Manning was already removed from pre-trial punishment at the Marine brig in Quantico. It was